And now it's counting down 3, 2, 1, go.
Action.
Yes.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Badminton Experience. We are happy to be back. Your two hosts, as always, myself, Johannesen, and Hans Christian Wisinghus in the other frame.
What's
Hans
up?
Christian, I haven't seen you in a long time. The last thing I heard, you withdrew from the Orléans. I read on Instagram that you have been sick for a few days, but that's been a few weeks. So give us an update on how you feel first of all.
I feel better, but I'm actually not back to 100%. But I am back in training. I'm still having a bit of trouble breathing through my nose. And when we yesterday when I was training on court, it was the first time in 13 days I was training on court. Yeah,
Wow.
we started off with a 700 multi session. So like it was a tough start, but I'm getting better and better. So I would say I'm back to normal training since yesterday, but I'm still not feeling completely perfect. So if I sound a little bit different, it's probably because I cannot breathe through my nose.
It makes sense. I can definitely hear that you are not totally there yet. So 13 days without badminton, and
Yeah.
and uh, and now you're back again. How does that feel to get back after 13 days, having in mind that you are not that young anymore?
Well, my legs actually feel pretty okay. I've also been doing a bit of work in the gym over the past 6, 7 days, so I have tried to like keep the body moving, but it was just tough getting back. Of course, like it's so boring to stay at home doing nothing, so I enjoyed being back in training, but I still had a bit of a headache and stuff. So yeah, I wouldn't really say I enjoyed that multi-feeding session, but I'm doing like a match practice session later today, so we'll see how that goes. I'm just happy I'm able to like get out of the house. It's so boring just to stay at home and do nothing basically.
Was it just like a regular fever, or what was going on?
I think it's something called the sinusitis. So you get like you have some pain up here and here. Yeah, it's in Danish. It's bihulebetændelse.
Ah,
But yes, sinusitis in English. So you can't really do much about it. It just needs to kind of pass. So yeah,
well, it's good that you are almost back to 100% and that we are able to do this podcast episode. The
yep.
last one we did was just post the All England. Since then, there's been played three tournaments, three Super 300 tournaments. One
Mm.
in Switzerland, one in
Spain.
Spain, one in Spain, yeah, and then the
Mm.
last one was in France at the Orléans. So I guess we're going to talk a bit about those three tournaments. If there's anything interesting that we need to address from those tournaments, and then
So many
we,
things,
ha-
of course.
and then we have a few, actually more than a few listeners' questions that we received on our Instagram page. So that's lovely. We're going to talk about some of those questions as well. But Hans Christian, where do we start?
I think we should start with the Swiss Open, of course. I know you did not play it, but I played it. It's the only one of the three I played. And even though I wasn't there for a long time, I still watched some pretty amazing badminton. And one thing I wanted to start off with was because we talked a lot about Li Shifeng after All England. And we even made like this headline: "Is he like the new Lin Dan?" And then he goes on to kind of to lose the first round in Swiss, but he played Li Shijia. I don't know if you watched that match.
I did.
Yeah, I think it was just like it says a lot about the level in men's singles right now that you have a first round match between the All England champion from the week before against Li Shijia, who's ranked 2 or 3 or 4 in the world at the moment, and like it was
Yeah,
just
he was in the semifinal as well at the All England.
yeah, exactly. Like it was such a high quality match. But did you watch the drama in the end of the third game?
I did, but I never really understood exactly what was going on.
Mm.
But no. First of all, before we get into that, I watched the match. It was a phenomenal match. Li Sijia really came out with with a good attitude.
Mm.
He was really hyped for that match, and I was very impressed that both of these players were able to deliver on I wouldn't say the same level as they did at All
Mm.
England. There was a few more mistakes here and there, but still overall it was a pretty high level, and both of them definitely did their absolute best to win the match. But no, in the end, Li Shifeng got a red card at 21 all, right?
Yeah, I think it was 21 all. I know he just survived one match point, and then I think he wanted to tie his shoelaces or something like, and he wasn't allowed to take the break. Did it anyway, and then he just got a red card because he already had a yellow card from early in the match. So he just saved one match point and then had to face like another match point, and it was just like when you were there, like the intensity was so high, like everyone was looking at that match, and as you said, Li Shijia, he was so hyped, so he also kind of made the full intensity of the match just kind of explode because he was shouting a lot and like his attitude was, I would say, a lot more intense compared to what we've seen from him lately. Yeah.
But how did he get the first yellow card? Do you know that?
No, I don't know because I was doing my own warm up. I was actually next on court, so me and Thomas we were waiting to walk on court while we were watching those final few points.
Okay. But he did this thing during All England and also against me a few times where he needed to take his shoe off and get
Mm.
some cool spray on the toe. So I'm not exactly sure. I
Yeah.
don't. I mean, I don't believe there was anything wrong. I just believe he wanted to take advantage of that rule
Mm.
where you can have a medical timeout or whatever.
Yeah, so you can break your opponent's rhythm.
But I remember a few years back when Iskandar from
Mm.
Malaysia, one of my good friends, he did the exact same against Kalong
Mm.
in a final in Austria, and I think I can't remember the exact score, but I know that Kalong had a match point. Then
Mm.
Iskandar took off his shoe. I don't know why, but he took off his shoe and then tied it again, and then he got a red card, lost the match, and then it was over. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, now that you're telling the story, there's something in the back of my head that reminds me that something like that happened. But yeah, I don't remember seeing it myself. Yeah, it
No, but
must be like the
yeah,
worst way to lose a match, just on a red card.
I remember Iskandar was so confused. He really didn't understand what's going on here. I red card, the match is over, and yeah, that's sick. But no, what else from the Swiss Open? Obviously, it was quite a huge surprise to see Viktor lose to Chou Chen Chen.
Yeah, I
Expect
was just
especially
gonna say.
yeah, especially the scores that look kind of weird. I
Mm.
saw the match though,
Mm.
but that was obviously one of the big surprises. And
Yeah,
then Kogi went on to win the
yeah,
championships.
yeah. I think it's like it's almost a little bit sad that Joe, like, he finally beats Victor after losing so many times in big matches against him, and then he still doesn't manage to like clinch the title. Like I wouldn't say that Joe he's like forever number two. It's not. He's won a few big tournaments. He won Indonesia Open, which you will remember, of course. But I just kind of feel like he has so many like semifinals and finals, and not really getting those wins consistently. And he's lost so many times to Victor. So I actually, even though I don't really have any relation to either Koki or Cho, I was rooting a bit for Cho in that final against Koki. I was hoping that he was gonna get that one, but yeah, Kogi played an amazing tournament out of nowhere. I don't really think we've seen anything from Kogi Watanabe lately that would suggest that all of a sudden he could go on and win that tournament.
No, it's a bit. I mean, I remember Kogi from back in the junior days. I
Mm.
remember I played a World Junior Championships, and I remember Kogi being the first men's single for Japan.
Mm.
And I was actually expecting him to be like the next player on the rise from Japan. I remember he was pushing Victor hard in the first round at All England. Can't
Yeah.
really remember if it was 1 or 2 years ago. But then he hasn't really produced any great results since then. And then suddenly Kodai came around and became the next thing from Japan.
Yeah.
But yeah, out of nowhere, he suddenly delivered a very good tournament and got a Super 300 title in Switzerland. But I feel like it's I've seen it a million times that Cho beats Victor. I haven't seen that, but I have seen a million times. One player makes a great upset, and then everyone is focusing on this
Yeah.
player. But then there is some guy that goes through the draw a little bit unnoticed, and then suddenly he goes on to win the tournaments where everyone's attention is on another guy.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a classic. I was just hoping. I felt like he kind of deserved it, Joe. But like you said, you were watching that match against Victor, Victor against Joe. I was also watching it. Did you also feel like Victor was like mentally in like a bad place compared to what we've seen from him? Like I felt like he looked like someone who was I would say like doubting himself a little bit. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, is it correct that the shuttles were a bit fast?
Yeah, they were interested. Yeah, a little bit, a little bit.
Because as as I remember it, Victor was struggling to find the baseline. I feel like he was
Mm,
lifting out on the baseline quite a lot. And yeah, it's no secret that Victor really thrives under conditions where it's a bit more slow than fast.
mm,
I think
mm,
it makes his defense very solid and his lifts as well. But once he struggles to find the baseline with his lifts, I feel like he's getting a bit more uncomfortable on court, and
mm,
I think that was what we saw there. And also, Joe executed like amazingly on
yeah,
when he got a few chances. He was just really executing well.
mm,
Almost like playing around a bit. I mean, playing those very very tight net shots that like
yeah,
drops down from far away, and I was like, this is close to being too much and going in the wrong direction, but he just managed to succeed on a lot of those occasions.
mm,
But back to your question, yeah, Victor was definitely not his best placed mentally. I think that's fair to say. He looked frustrated from the get go. There was a long rally in the beginning of the first set, and he showed some frustrations. I don't know
mm,
if it was towards someone in the crowd or whatever, but they played a long rally. Cho Jin won it, and then he did like something like this and said
mm,
something to the crowd or
yeah,
someone. I'm not 100% sure. But I think it's. I mean, he was obviously super super disappointed after the All England. We saw in his post match interview he was actually in tears, very very
mm,
sad. So I think it must have been 100% difficult for him to really really motivate himself to go and play the Swiss Open. I
mm,
mean, even though he wins the event, he can't even use it on his ranking. He's
mm,
so far ahead on the ranking. So I think the
yeah,
tournament it was only for him to like get out with some anger or reboost
mm,
his confidence after the
mm,
All England. But yeah, he didn't really manage to, and why I'm not 100% sure. But I remember last year I had a bunch of expectations going into the All England.
yeah,
And after I lost that one, it really, I was so frustrated, and I really brought that frustration with me to Switzerland the week
yeah,
after,
yeah,
and actually it brought that with me for the next few months.
yeah.
So
If
maybe it
anyone
was
out there
going.
haven't watched your match against Strickland from Swiss Open last year, they should go and watch it, just from all your antics and like the way you you are on court in that match. It's very entertaining to say the least.
I was definitely frustrated. So maybe we were in a similar place.
Yeah,
All the
yeah.
expectations was on all England, and it can be difficult to reset in such a short amount of time.
Was that
So
why
yeah.
you also like withdrew? I know you weren't frustrated after All England, but like just to reset better for like Spain and Orléans instead.
Yeah, I mean, physically and mentally, I was so drained after All England. It really took a lot out of me. So it was a no-brainer for me withdraw from Swiss Open. Even though I like to be in Basel, I did well at the World Championships in 2019, placed second, so I like the place. But no, it was obvious that I was so drained, and I actually also got a bit sick the following week after All England. So I guess physically and mentally, it really took a lot out of me. It's been a long time since I've played 4 matches on that level. So that was the reason why I decided to skip Swiss Open and focus on Spain.
Yeah, which seemed like a decent choice. You did pretty well in Spain.
Yeah, Spain was awesome. Let's move on to Spain. Madrid is a fantastic place. I can tell.
Mhm.
The
Yeah, it's one of
weather
your
is amazing.
favorite cities, isn't it? Or
Yeah, it must be. I mean, the weather was perfect.
Hmm.
The food is amazing. You know, I like food. I'm a sucker for good restaurants, and it was a fantastic place, a fantastic week. I had a bunch of my friends. We lived in a big Airbnb, so we had a lot of fun while still giving it our absolute best during the tournament. But the conditions in Spain was quite tricky, especially in the first 3 rounds, because the shuttles were extremely fast.
Yeah,
Um,
just like at the
so
European Championships last year, it was the same arena, right?
yeah, it was the same arena, and I think it's because altitude-wise,
Yeah.
Madrid is pretty high.
Mm. Yeah.
So that makes the shuttles very very fast. So it was kind of fun. I mean, you know, I'm a player that likes to play flat and net and stuff, and it gets a little bit more like playing a quarter court or a box match
Mm.
when you
Yeah.
play with these very very fast shuttles. And I enjoyed to do that for once.
But they changed the speed for the semifinal day.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I actually thought about back then that this is a good topic for the Badminton Experience.
Yeah.
So the first three rounds, first round, second round, and quarterfinal, the shuttles were extremely fast.
Mm.
Um, I saw for some of the matches, Matthias Christiansen and Alexandra Boy, for instance, they tested the shuttles before every match, and then they changed them to a slower speed.
Okay.
But for all the other matches, we played with the fast ones
That's very
all the
unusual.
time.
Like usually they won't allow us to test the shuttles before the matches because the shuttles are being tested in the morning, and then the referee
Yeah.
decides which one to play with.
I'm not 100% sure about the rules,
Mm.
but I know that a few matches were able to get slower shuttles
Okay.
because they
Yeah.
complained about it. No, but we showed up to the semifinals, and then it was definitely a slower speed. Like the
Mm.
game was so different from the other days, and
Yeah.
I talked to the referee about it when I arrived in the hall. I asked him, so you changed the speed of the shuttles, or? And he was like, he wouldn't even say to me what the speed was.
Okay.
But then after a while, he said, yeah, it's correct. Now we're playing with a slower speed. And I was
Yeah.
like, why is that? And he told me that we did the testing in the morning and we came up with the conclusions that these were the best shuttles. And
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
like, but if you had tested the shuttles on day 1, 2, and 3, you would have got the same results, and obviously realized that the shuttles was extremely fast.
Mhm.
So it didn't really make any sense. But what he finally told me after a long talk was that they actually did not have enough of
Yeah.
the slower shuttles. So that was why they saved them for the later rounds, for the
Yeah.
semifinal and the final.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, it's difficult to complain about the speed of the shuttles that we played with in the semifinal and final, because that was closer to a normal speed.
Yeah.
Um, and that's fine. For me, the issue is that I've been preparing
Mm.
for some circumstances. I've been
Yeah.
doing my tactical prep together with my coach, expecting these circumstances, because that's what we have been playing with for the previous 3 days. And then you show up to a match and you can basically take all the prep you have done, all the tactical preparations, and throw it out of the window, because now it's like playing in total new conditions. And I feel like that's super annoying, and that's quite unprofessional.
Didn't something similar happen at the European Championships last year? I also remember we played with really, really fast shuttles up until the quarterfinal, and then it looked like from the semifinal onwards it were slower shuttles again. Because I think I remember back then there was also a rumor that they didn't have enough of the slower speed shuttles, so that's why they used the faster ones in the start and then finished off using the slower ones. Like,
I can't really remember. I still remember when I played the final at the European Championships against Viktor, and during that match the shuttle was also very fast. But I can't
okay,
remember if they were even faster in the first few rounds. I'm not
oh,
100% sure. But I don't know. I don't really
anyway,
know. I don't
yeah,
really
I
know
just.
who to blame. It's just I don't know. It's weird that it's almost kind of like a secret what speed of shuttles we
Yeah,
choose to
it
play with.
shouldn't be a secret. It shouldn't be a secret. Like, of course, every player who goes and asks should be told which speed you play with. I don't know. I think it's a little unprofessional to not have enough shuttles of each speed. I think they need to have three speeds available. And like, to me, it doesn't really make sense to have a rule that you need to have three speeds available if you don't have enough in all three speeds, because then, like, yeah, if you have to do like you said, change it midway through the tournament, it's, yeah, of course it's the same for everyone, but as you say, like, you should be playing under the same conditions throughout the same tournament. At least that's yeah, that's my opinion. I think that would make the most sense, and I think that would also give the highest quality of the play, because obviously when you have to get used to new conditions, like, the level will drop a little bit. That's why first round matches in all tournaments are always a little bit lower level compared to semifinals or quarterfinals, because, yeah, the more people get used to conditions, the better they will also play.
Definitely. I remember when we played on. I mean, basically for the past few years, in general, the shuttles has been extremely slow.
Mm,
I remember when we played on Bali.
mm.
When was that? Was that 1.5 year ago almost now, or a little bit more than a
Yeah,
year?
it was, yeah, 1.5. It was December,
Yeah.
21.
Um, and out there the shuttles were extremely slow, and I also
Mm,
remember hearing rumors that they did not have enough of another speed. So
yeah,
that was why we played with that one. But I don't know if that's true.
yeah,
I just I've never experienced playing with extremely slow shuttlecocks and then being able to switch it to a faster one.
yeah,
But it's like it's a bit more possible to do when it's the other way around.
mm,
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. It's
Yeah,
obviously annoying for a guy like me that likes to play with fast shuttlecocks, and I'm like finally now I can thrive under these conditions, and then it's just being changed. That's a bit
especially
annoying,
when
but
you have to play against a guy like Sunayama, who for sure enjoys the slower shuttles more than the fast ones. He is a physical player, no doubt about that.
definitely.
Yeah, it was also quite a physical battle in the final between him and Nishimoto. It was just like one long rally after the other.
I didn't get to see the final. I just saw the scores, and
Yeah,
these guys is yeah, they are just they're just machines. I mean, they're so good at playing so many long matches one day after
yeah,
another. And
yeah,
actually, a fun thing, I guess it was the day after. The day after the final, I was in the training hall in France,
mm,
and Tsuneyama, Nishimoto, and Koki, they were practicing together, playing one against one match, like
uh,
not 100% effort, but like quite close to. And I was
yeah.
like, these guys are insane. But
That
they
definitely
actually
wouldn't
didn't.
be you. If you had played the final the day before, you would do nothing or like a very, very light exercise the next day.
100%. I mean, I was on the court right next to them, just doing technique.
Yeah, yeah,
Just just standing still during technical drills. Also
Yeah.
because the floor in that training hall in France was horrible. It was super
Okay.
slippery and it was very hard. But
Yeah.
these guys don't care. They
Yeah. They
just
don't care.
work all day long.
Yeah, yeah, but they lost pretty early actually in France, so like maybe they should have just went home instead. But like it's not the style they do. The Japanese players like
Yeah.
they just if they enter a tournament they will play it as well unless they're like of course severely injured or something like that. It's much more common
Yeah.
for the Danish players to see like if you do well like you did in All England, then pull out of the next week and like just get more ready for the next challenges instead. It's
Yeah.
just a different approach.
I would say that, I mean, I haven't really played many Super 300
Mm.
tournaments the last few years because my ranking has been very good. But now I'm in a situation where my ranking is not the best, not as good as it has been. So I'm a bit more forced to play some of these tournaments.
Hmm.
But I was happy after All England and I was happy after Spain. I was totally fine with just going home and starting to practice again, or having a week off with some vacations or something like that. But I was kind of forced to keep going, and I don't know if these Japanese players felt the same. I'm not really certain of their ranking, but obviously there is an Olympic qualification coming up soon. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm also not sure how it works for them if they can choose 100% by themselves if they want to play, or if it's like the company team they play for or national team who decides. Like I don't think Nishimoto is in the national team right now. I just saw he changed the sponsor and he plays for this club called JKET or something like that. So I'm not sure how big of a say they actually have in terms of playing or going home. Who decides?
I'm not really certain of how it works with the
No.
Japanese players, if they are like practicing in like a federation all together, or if they are practicing in a club, in
Mm.
separate clubs.
Yeah. I'm
I'm not 100% sure.
yeah,
We'll
I'm
need to
pretty
dig
certain
into
that
that.
they practice in the clubs in some periods, and then they do like a training camp in the national center, but it can be like for many weeks. But like every now and then they will be training in the clubs, and every now and then they will go to the national center. I know they're not together all the time. None of them are.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, another thing I noticed from not necessarily Spain, but like overall from these three events, which I think was pretty significant actually, because I feel like for quite some time we have felt that China has not been as dominant, and especially in men's doubles, actually, I feel like they've been not a big like they haven't been that dominant. It's been Indonesia's discipline. There's been a lot of competition where China has just been like one of many countries. But in these three events in Spain, Orléans, Swiss, they won the men's doubles in two of them. They made a final in another one with three different pairs. And even if you take All England, if you also count that one, they had two pairs in the semifinals as well. I think it's quite. I know it's only Super 300 events, um, and it's not the biggest one or anything, but I think it is quite significant to see that they have these young guys coming up. They have not just one pair or two pairs, but actually three or four pairs that can compete at this level. I think they do a little bit of the same in the women's doubles. They also had some that did really well. One of the tournaments had an all Chinese final, so I think they're really coming on strong at the moment. China, and yeah, I'm quite interested to see in like 2 or 3 years if we will see China kind of back to like the old ways where they're dominating in all five disciplines. I think that's really something I haven't noticed until these 3 weeks, but they are really on the rise. I feel like.
Yeah, I remember I talked to Anders Rasmussen about it, and he also said that, I mean, just post Corona, there were no Chinese players because of,
Mhm.
I mean, they were probably in lockdown or something. But now there's like 4 or 5
Yeah.
amazing pairs from China, and it's pretty tough to be a men's double right now. But I guess it's kind of similar to Indonesia. They also have 4 or 5 pairs that's insanely good.
Yeah, it was good to see like this Maulana and Fikri. They made the final in Orléans, and I actually read it's quite crazy. They won All England last year. I don't know if you remember, but like they came out of nowhere to win that one. And this one, the final in Orléans, was the first final since that title in the All Englands.
Wow, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
No, me neither. I just read it like shortly before
That's crazy.
we started recording this episode.
I feel like let's talk a bit about the last tournament of this European leg, the Orléans
Yeah,
in France, also Super 300, and I feel that that was really a tournament for the young guns, for a lot of younger players on the rise. We saw Rajawat from India. He won the tournament, only
yeah,
21 years old. In the final, he faced Magnus Johannesen from Denmark, also 21 years old,
yeah.
and Alex Lanier did incredible during this tournament.
Yeah.
Defeated me in the first round.
Wow.
What a performance! And he is only 18 years old. So and then there's
All on
also
five.
Christo from France as well, also in the draw. I'm not. How old is he? Is it like 21 as well?
Yeah, I think he might be the same age as Manos and Rajawat. I will just look it up quickly. He is born, yeah, same age. It's from '02.
Okay.
Yeah,
And I'm not 100% certain about the age of that Chinese player that Magnus defeated in the
yeah, yeah,
semifinal.
yeah,
But he's also quite new. He played first men's singles for China at the Asia Championships, right? And did very,
yeah,
very well. But I haven't
yeah,
seen him around for a long time.
yeah. I think he's a bit older. If I can trust Wikipedia, he's actually 25, so
Yeah, okay,
he's a
okay.
bit of a late bloomer perhaps from China.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I completely agree. Like I think one thing where I'm a little bit reluctant and in saying that like these guys, this is a big breakthrough and stuff, is that this was like the fifth tournament in a row for a lot of the top players as well. So like yourself included as well. I don't think you will have seen a lot of the top players in week five being at their very best. It's not to take away a lot from these younger guys, but I do feel like there's a difference in like beating you first round of Orléans compared to beating you first round of All England, for example. Um, it's of course like it's still amazing to see like these guys winning at 300. It's an amazing achievement and stuff. But I still, yeah, it's more like it's a taste of what's coming more than I see this tournament as a big breakthrough. We got a lot of questions from our listeners as well about this guy Rajawat. And he played amazing this tournament, but I don't sit back with the feeling that okay, next time when he's playing a Super 500 or if he can make the main draw of a 750, then he will be competing for the title. I don't see these guys suddenly being at that level. I don't know if you would agree with that. Like I feel like the circumstances is talking a bit more into their advantage compared to some of the more established guys. You also spoke a little bit about like the motivation and stuff. Again, I would feel like Lanier's motivation in Orléans Super 300 first round is a bit bigger than your motivation in the first round of such a tournament. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, obviously 100%. I mean, I guess that's why when we get selected for certain events,
Mm.
for instance, the different championships or European games and stuff, I know that the main priority from the coaches is how well can we do at the
Mm.
biggest events
Yeah.
where we expect everyone to show up at their absolute best. So obviously yes, and no, I wouldn't expect Rajawat or Magnus to be a contender to win a Super 750 anytime like really soon. Also because the whole field in men's single at the moment is so insane. Another question that we got, that it's, I mean, just to enter top 40 is extremely tough at in these days. But no, I think it was yeah, we got to see who is going to be in the, I don't know, top 20, maybe top 10 in the upcoming years, maybe 2 3 years from now. Sometimes it can be quicker. You never know. I mean, a guy like Lanier from France, he's very young, and I think it's super impressive that he's that good and that strong physically. He's very strong for a guy that's 18 years old. But yeah, I mean, you're 100% right about the motivation, and that's why I admire a guy like Viktor a lot, because he's so consistent week after week. But we also saw that he was struggling going down to a super 300 tournament. So obviously, had it been like a super 1,000, maybe the motivation had been different. You also saw Nishimoto and Tsuneyama, they lost quite early in the tournament, and the scores were not great for them either. So it could be a sign of fatigue mentally and physically.
Yeah. It says something
Yeah, but
about
not
the
but
depth that, like, if you lose 5%, then it's like you can lose to anyone from top 40, even some guys outside of top 40. Guys like Magnus and Rajawat before this tournament weren't even in top 40. I'm not even
no,
sure if
both
they
of
will
them
be.
from the qualification, right?
Yeah, they got promoted from the qualifying, both of them. I think in the quarterfinal, it was like 6 out of the 8 players were from either qualifiers or promoted from qualifiers in the men's singles.
Yeah, but I think it's important not to take anything away from these guys who did very great and delivered
Mm.
some great matches and some good results. Um, and I knew going into my match that it was going to be very difficult. I had an experience against Manos 3 years ago at the national championships. I went into the match. I was going to face like a young gun. I didn't really knew much about him, and then I just got my ass kicked in straight games.
Yeah,
And I was really aware of. I mean, I remembered that situation, and prior to this match, I was like, that's not going to happen this time. I need to learn from that experience, really take it seriously. And I did my absolute best to do that. I prepared as well as possible. But it's just, it didn't really come natural to me anymore. I mean, the motivation, where in England and in Spain, it was like, I was just naturally very motivated. But here it was more like something I had to get through, and I tried to be disciplined and do my preparations and stuff. But it just wasn't to be that day. And
I
Alex
think
capitalized on the opportunity.
yeah, I think it was pretty clear to see. I was watching the match that you didn't really come into the match with that like burning desire. Like sometimes you can just see when a player like is really 100% on. And I think where you saw the difference is that when you went into the second game, you started like shouting a lot more. You tried to like pump yourself up, which for me was a pretty clear sign that you were aware that you maybe weren't 100% like yeah, committed in that first game, that you needed to do something actively to try and pump some more energy into the match.
Yeah, 100%. And I succeeded a bit in that second game, and I
Mm.
also feel like he did what might be for some people known as a Anders Antonsen, and decided to drop the
Mm.
second game when he was down. I don't know, maybe after 11 he decided to or something.
Yeah,
But then he came out strong again in the third. But no, you're right. I tried to really pump myself up and yeah, give some energy. Just to try out something, and I told my coach after the first game, this is not about playing like a beautiful game where it gets to like a higher level or something. This is like, try to get everything back, shout, bring some energy,
yeah,
just bring it back to the old times, just being a
mm,
fighter, kind of like yourself on some
yeah,
days.
yeah.
and that was my only option to try and win that match. It wasn't going to be pretty, but yeah,
yeah.
no, you're right. But the young
Well,
guys definitely capitalized on an opportunity in week 5.
yeah. Like talking about Lanier, like what do you think of his game? Like you said that he's physically very strong. I also recently played him in German Open in the first round. Yeah, I kind of feel like that he's also very mature in like the decision making. Because I feel like he's when you just look at him, like if you have a hit with him or if you watch one of his matches, like he's not so flashy because he is not he doesn't have like a brilliant touch or like brilliant technique or anything. Yeah, so he's not flashy in many ways. But when I played him, I was very surprised actually with like how few bad decisions he made, especially considering that he's only 18 years old. Like I felt like I was playing against a very mature player. Like, what was your feeling like with his playing style and stuff?
Yeah, I agree. One thing that's very good for his age is he makes few bad tactically decisions, and he also makes quite few mistakes.
Yeah,
So I think he's a very solid player.
yeah,
And I expected that going into the match. I saw some of his previous matches, and I noticed that he do not make a lot of mistakes.
yeah,
He's quite good to keep focused, and that's suddenly not suddenly. That's usually something that you learn over the years to be more consistent. And he has that. He I mean. No, you're right. He's not the most flashy player. It doesn't look as smooth as a Kento Momota or something like that. But he's strong. He has a strong arm. The conditions were very slow in France. But even though he was like under pressure, he could still like bring the shuttle all the way down to the baseline, and so that's very unusual for a guy his age.
yeah, yeah. I think it's like it's a little unfair to him actually that I feel like Crystal Popov is getting a lot more of the attention when you think of the young French men's singles. But I think that's also because he is a bit more flashy of a player. Like he has a lot of like really nice strokes and it looks a lot more smooth. But like it's really interesting to follow that group of men's singles. I know Tomar is also not old. I think what is he like 24, 25, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so they have Tomar, they have Christo, they have Alex for the future. Like it can be a pretty dangerous Thomas Cup team also in the future if they can keep on developing all of them.
Yeah, 100%, and they have that mixed double that
Mm.
does amazing as well. I guess are they in top 5 or something like that on the world
They
ranking
were at one
with Tom
point.
Tom
I'm not
Gugel and
sure.
Delrue.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I mean, I think we have been talking about France for a while, that it will be interesting to see their Thomas Cup team in a few years. So,
mm.
but I was also very impressed with our Danish friend Magnus Johannesen. I think he
Mm.
looked super good. He really had some good wins during this week, and I think he looks strong. He's moving very well. He's not that big of a guy, so he's light on his feet, but he looks strong. And also I think during the semifinal he was able to actually make the Chinese player a bit tired, and in the final Rajawat was definitely very exhausted. So I think that's great signs for young Magnus.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was like a mini breakthrough for him. Won a few close matches as well, and like he plays like a guy right now who has a lot of confidence. I think it's also still obvious to see that like he needs to develop some areas of his game, but like his I should say his defense, his movement, his consistency in this tournament was like really good. I was watching that final and I think like it must really hurt for him that he didn't win that final game because as you say, Rajawat he was exhausted. I saw in like BWF they do this weekly article called "The Week in Quotes," and there was a quote from Rajawat saying that like he could not move his legs in the final game, and his coach just told him to try and keep the shuttle in. And that was kind of the feeling I also had from watching it. That like if Manos could keep the pace high and not make mistakes, then like this guy wouldn't really have a chance. But yeah, it must really hurt that he didn't get that title. But yeah, of course, he should just focus on all the positives, all the good wins, and all the ranking points, and so on.
But
It was the right thing.
that was also quite impressive from Rajawat's side,
Hmm.
because he was
Hmm.
definitely so fatigued, but he was still
Yeah.
able to somehow stay in that match.
Yeah.
And it looked like after the second game that Magnus was going to run him over, but
Hmm.
somehow he managed to keep playing, and that was actually very mature as well for a
Hmm.
guy his age. So
Yeah.
so yeah,
I, th-
very interesting stuff.
Yeah, it was quite unusual to see also that he was a lot more dangerous in his forehand side compared to his round the head. I think that's pretty uncommon for a right-handed player. I would say in like 9 out of 10 times you would always say that the right-handers are usually more dangerous in the round the head. But he had, especially from his forehand, he had this cross court. I would call it a mix between a slice and a stick smash. It was he scored a lot of points on that one, and I really liked like the technique he used. It looks so fluid all the way. I would love to be able to do that the same way, but I'm not even close to it. But it's nice to see like different playing styles. Yeah, different players breaking through.
You're right. Now we have a bit of a problem, Hans Christian, because I
What's
just
that?
went to just went to the Instagram. I
Yeah,
wanted to read up some of the questions, but
I already know what the problem is,
now the story has expired.
and
So
you cannot find it again.
I should have done a few screenshots. But I remember one of them, and it's a question that we have received quite a few times.
Mhm.
So some of you guys out there may or may not have seen this, but there's apparently a new invented serve going on right now. I think it's actually a player from Denmark named Markus Renshøj, who I think it was in Poland. Am I
Yeah,
right? It was in
Polish
Poland,
Open. Yeah.
Polish Open. He did this serve where he was able to add like a crazy amount of spin to the serve,
Mm.
so it seemed like it was almost impossible for the opponents to receive.
Mm.
They tried to lift it, it just went out in the sides, and they tried to attack it, and it just went straight to the net.
Mm.
And then a German guy who has a YouTube channel. I guess he's doing like badminton tutorial and
Yeah, he is
technical tutorials and stuff. His name is Tobias Badenka, if I'm not mistaken.
correct.
He did a video on this serve. I guess the caption was something like, "Will this serve change badminton forever?" or something.
Mm.
And
Mm.
he tried to explain how it's done and stuff.
Yeah.
It looks insane. I know you have seen the serve as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, I saw that video from Tobias, and then I just saw yesterday that Marcus he also released a video on his Instagram where he's doing it 3 times in a row, and like as you say, like the amount of spin, it's crazy. Like it looks completely uncontrollable. Like it never turns. Like even when it hits the floor, it still hasn't turned. So you won't be able to just hit it on the like the tip of the shuttle. When you hit it, you will hit it like sideways. So like I really struggle to see how you would be able to do anything other than just make a high lift on it. And like what he is doing is that he's spinning the shuttle before he hits it. So he's using his fingers to add pre-spin to the shuttle. Um, and I was trying it on Sunday. I saw the video on Friday, I think, and then I had some training. I was coaching on Sunday, and I thought I need to try this. And like one thing is that it's difficult enough to get the amount of spin by using my fingers, but like when I then hit it after adding the spin, like the shuttle goes in like it goes right and left and up and below the net. Like I don't really understand how he's able pre-spin it and then still control it the way he does afterwards. But I saw this guy Vitaly Durkin. Do you remember him from Russia? Former
Yeah, I do.
doubles
I do.
player. Yeah, he also put something up on his YouTube where he's doing the same. And there's a little bit less spin in it, but it still like looks almost uncontrollable. So yeah, some of the other guys on the national team yesterday, they also tried it. Kim Astrup, William Bo, and a few others spent 45 minutes trying to do it. Because like
Okay.
obviously, if you can do it at the highest level and people cannot get it into play, it can of course change the game. And I would say even in singles, it would also make sense because if you can add that amount of spin, if I move all the way forward and stand at the service line where the doubles players stand, and I make that serve, like if the only thing you can do is make a high lift, then why wouldn't I want to do that serve in
Mm.
singles as well? So yeah, I see it as it has the potential for sure to change the game if it keeps on being allowed.
It's very interesting, and I don't really know what to think about it. I mean, obviously, it's not really fun to watch. Let's say that everyone was able to master this serve, and you
Mm,
never got to see any actual badminton play because it was just like one serve and then the rally ends. That
yeah,
wouldn't be enjoyable for anyone to watch.
yeah,
So it's obviously something that you need to make a rule against. I feel like, let's say everyone got so good at it.
yeah,
But it's a difficult one because what about there's already like a spinning serve going around. A
mm,
guy like Kevin is really good at it. He doesn't spin the shuttle before he hits it.
mm,
He just slices under it. I believe in a
yeah,
way that makes the shuttle turn.
yeah,
And then that one is also very difficult for people to do something about. I know Kim Astrup from Denmark is also quite good at it.
yeah,
So I guess the question is, where do you draw the line?
yeah,
What's Can you make a serve with a little spin, or
yeah.
is there
It's been
an amount of?
completely disallowed. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, so let's say this new serve, people starts to do that all the time and they become really good at it.
Mm,
I think that one should be illegal, to be honest.
mm,
What about the other spin serve? Is that still
mm.
fine because you are not spinning the shuttle prior to hitting it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think it should be because it's also like it's allowed to spin the shuttle on a like a net court, like a net shot. So like spin is part of the game. But I completely agree. Like I think it should be banned to pre-spin it because I don't want to watch a match where like this guy Rensoy in Polish international. I don't know how they managed to lose the match, but like they start off getting up something like 8-0 or 9-0 because the guys from Singapore they literally cannot get the shuttle in play. Like they cannot do anything, and like of course it was fun to see because I've never seen anything like it. But it wouldn't be fun to see, as I say, if everyone is doing it and there will be no badminton play. I wouldn't enjoy that. So it's kind of the same back in the 80s. I think it was the 70s when the Sedek brothers started hitting the feathers on the serve and made the shuttle spin so much that people basically couldn't return it as well. And after a year or two, BWF they banned that serve. So now you're not allowed to hit the feathers in the serve. You have to hit it on the like the tip of the shuttle. So back then they changed the rules to try and get more actual play in the matches. So I think if it's only Markus Renshaw who's going to do it in the future, I don't think there will be a rule change. But if you start seeing it on a more broad scale on the world tour, I'm pretty confident that it will be banned unless someone figures out a good way to counter it. But maybe it's just because I'm old, but I'm really struggling to imagine what you can do to counter it with the amount of spin it has.
I mean, it's also the reason why they wanted to make that new service rule where they lowered the height that people could serve at, because
Mm.
I mean, they don't want the serve situation just to be the game. They
No.
want gameplay more than just the service situation.
Mm.
But I'm quite certain that let's say everyone started to master this serve, that there will be a rule against it.
Mm.
But what's interesting is to see, let's say people show up here during the summer and suddenly people have become very good at this serve. Do they make a rule from one tournament to another,
Yeah.
or will we see this serve being like a game winner in so many matches during the
Yeah.
next 3 weeks until they come up with a rule against it? I think that's going to be quite interesting to see.
I think usually it's pretty difficult to like change a rule so quickly because it has to do with something fundamental in the game. So I would say it would have to be on like an annual general meeting that they actually change the rules, because you also need to implement it. You need to advise all the umpires who need to call it, and like they need to be able to understand how to look for it and like all these kind of things. So I think it's very difficult to just go from one tournament to the other. I have to admit, when I saw this video, I thought, okay, for Malaysia Masters in May, I will try and do that if I can. But then again on Sunday when I tried to do it, like I had no chance at all. So I also kind of figured out that it's probably not something Marcus has learned by just practicing it once or twice. Like I think it takes a lot of hours on the court to really master it. Because obviously when you pre-spin it, there's you add an element of randomness, so you need to be able to kind of control that. So it's not just that everyone will start doing it straight away. It will take time to master it. But yeah, it will be interesting to follow. There's definitely a lot of talk about it going on.
Yeah, and I'm quite sure that a lot of people have had the same idea as you.
Mm.
I need to be able to do this serve,
Mm.
and then they go and practice it. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be very, very interesting to follow.
Definitely, definitely.
Um, we actually, I mean, we have got around a lot also around some of the questions about the serve, about Rajawat. Um, do
Lanier
you
as well. We had some questions about.
Lanier as well? Is there any questions that you remember from that Instagram post that we just need to get around?
There were. I did write down a few. I think one of the like that were more that was more obvious to go around was we had actually 3 or 4 people asking about how to deal with injuries or just general talk about injuries. I thought it was pretty obvious to take that up because you've just been going through like a long period of injuries. Obviously, both you and I have had injuries over the years, so I think we could make like a just like a short discussion about like how to go through it. Um, and like what was your experience? Like how did you stay motivated? Because you had a really long period. Like obviously it's so frustrating, but like what did you do to try and like keep adding to your level, even though you're add to your level and to your motivation, even though you're actually not able to go on court and do all the stuff that you want to do or wanted to do.
It was definitely extremely tough. It was the toughest period of my life. The last like 8 months months has been horrible in many ways because there's nothing I like to do more than playing badminton and being able to experience the world and experience the thrill of competition and playing in front of a bunch of people and stuff. That's
Mm.
what I love to do, and I know that I do not have like an unlimited amount of years to do this. So it really frustrated me a lot, and I was very very sad for a long time.
Mm.
Um, but I think how to deal with injuries. First of all, you need to get like diagnosed by a physio or a doctor,
Mm.
um, and together with them, maybe together with your physical coach, if you have one, then you need to make a plan for rehab. That's I guess that's the first step to figure out what is this injury and how do we deal with it and how do we gradually get you back on court. So you start out with a bunch of exercises to make this certain area strong again,
Mm.
to get full range of motion into whatever injury you have, and then build it up so it's strong, and then slowly start to get back on the badminton court as well. But I
Yeah.
guess it requires that you are mentally tough, especially if it's like more than just a few weeks of injury. Let's say it's a very, very bad injury that lasts like 4 to 6 months or something.
Mm.
It's very, very tough. So you need to be, yeah, maybe also talk to some people around you. If you have some kind of a psychologist, or if it's just like friends and family, you need some support along the way, because it can be mentally extremely draining to go through a longer period with injuries.
Did you do anything like anything you didn't do before? Like I always try and actually watch more video. Like, I think that's a very simple thing because often when I have been injured, I feel like I have so much more time at home compared to when I'm training full out. So I was always trying to exploit that time by watching more video, not necessarily of myself, but also just watch a bit more badminton. Did you do anything
Okay,
like
so
that?
when you say videos, you mean you watched more badminton? You
Yeah,
didn't watch just
badminton video.
movies and
Yeah,
stuff?
not just YouTube videos of anything, but like badminton. So like watch more badminton of myself, old matches, or of opponents that I find relevant to watch for the future. Did you do anything like that, or were you rehabbing so much? Because I also kind of feel like with your injury that you were doing a lot of rehab. So maybe you kind of felt like you did as many hours of training as you did before, just a different kind of training.
Um, what did I do? I mean, I obviously, as you said, I did a lot of rehab, and it was a daily grind every single day. I had to do rehab or to get treatment. So yeah, I was doing everything that I could every single day in order to improve. And as you mentioned, let's say you have an injury with your leg,
Mm,
somewhere in your leg. Maybe you're still able to do some standing still technical drills,
yeah.
work on your attacking strokes, or work on your
Mm,
net play, or something like that. And
mm,
I definitely did that as well. So
yeah.
if you are not able to do
So
something, you need to figure out what can I do
yeah.
while being injured.
And the same goes for the gym, right? Like if it's a lower body injury, you can still work on your core stability. You can still work on your shoulder or upper body, yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
it's about
100%.
finding something you can still do and enjoy that there is actually areas where you can still improve. So when you get back, at least some areas of yourself is at maybe a higher level than it was before the injury. Then of course there will be other things that you lose from a long break, but at least you give yourself an advantage in terms of getting back at a better level compared to if you just only did rehab and nothing else.
But sometimes it can also be the right decision to actually step away from badminton, and step away from, because my go-to is usually, let's say I am disappointed, or I'm injured, or there's something not going my way.
Mm.
I'm going even more crazy on optimizing everything around me, and how can I train even more, and do all sorts of stuff. But sometimes it's also worked for me to like relax a little bit, actually.
Yeah.
Drink a glass of wine to my dinner, or
Mm.
try not to be too focused about optimizing, and thinking
Yeah.
about badminton and getting back all the time, because it is mentally draining to be injured. And sometimes it can be like too too demotivating almost, and too tough mentally to walk around wanting to do something and you're not able
Yeah.
to. So yeah.
I guess the answer is that there's not one simple way to do it. Like it depends on so many things. Also, it can be so individual, but there's many different ways of approaching an injury layoff.
100%. But I mean, I have seen players in like boots after a knee injury or surgery in the ankle
Mm.
or something, and they are still sitting on a chair doing net spins.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's always a way to still improve in some way and stay active. So
Yeah.
I will definitely recommend that. So you don't show up 3 or 4 months later and have become like totally out of shape and then need to regain your shape before you can start to practice and play again.
Yeah, true. Should we say that's it? Honest, we've been on for 1 hour and 5 minutes now, so I think people are starting to
Wow.
get bored with us.
If they weren't from the beginning, but if you have watched all the way to the end, thank you so
Well
much,
done.
guys. Another episode of the Badminton Experience. Super happy we got it done.
Yeah.
My goal is that we really start to do some guest episodes once again.
Yeah.
We need to figure out if we can do it like freeways, because obviously you're in Denmark right now. I'm in Dubai, and then we want to interview a third guest. So if we can, make it work like freeways, that would be awesome.
Yeah. We have a few guys that we are considering. So there's
There's
still
many
also
many people that we would like to talk to.
there's also still a lot of recommendations coming in. So just keep it coming. We will try to make it happen. But yeah, no promises.
100%. Thanks, guys, for watching. If you haven't done it, please subscribe to the channel. Leave a like on the Badminton Experience. You can also find us on Instagram. Hans Christian is rocking the amazing merch that we did a few months back. So you can actually also still go and get an item from the Badminton Experience merchandise shop, thebadmintonexperience.com. And with that being said, see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.